pets to work day one day, and I brought my dog, and the dog took a shit in his floor. So I said on the air, I go, well, that's the first non-human to shit in your office. And he was so embarrassed. Jack was so embarrassed by that. I don't know why.
And then the head of North Carolina veterinary medicine called up Alan Dick and said you should be fired, and they fired you, right?
They did. That's what happened. The head of veterinary medicine. I took some ivermectin and I just showed myself out. That's funny. You know, they tried to give that job to me a couple of different times and I didn't take it. And then eventually I took it and then, you know, turned out great. Among the people that I work with now, that's the only way that they would ever, that's the only show that they recognize that I might have been on. That's the deal. And I only think they're faking it. I think they think I'm Chris Kelly, but look, I don't put wires on my balls and have them blast Black Sabbath or whatever it is they're doing to. Damn. Mm. How much would they have had to pay you, Brad, to go on television and talk about how you attach something to your balls and they pump sound waves in there to make the the veins and the arteries clear up? How much money would they have had to pay you?
Do it for free if I could get that.
Do it. You know, part of the irony is we also had one of the girls on the show before I got fired who had a breast enlargement, and we did spots for the guy that did it. I mean, he wasn't a doctor or anything, but I don't need no government telling me who can and cannot do boob jobs.
All right, we're ready to commence, as they say in 8th grade.
Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, what was the deal with homeroom? What was that all about? I don't know. Don't know. No, I didn't do my hair today. Jeez.
Oh, yeah. Try to get some mousse or something. Put some product in your hair.
This is the Brad and Britt cast. Thank you for coming along with us this day. You got any cards to throw out on the table? I got a few here. I got a few.
I got something too stupid for us to talk about right off the bat. If you want to go for it.
Okay. All right. Okay. I got a clip. I got to beat up on one of our favorite. One of our favorite sites because they did the worst out of context twist bullshit. Go ahead.
This is too stupid to talk about. I'll just show you and get your reaction immediately. Then I'll explain what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
isn't that too
without? But no. By the way, the first two words of the headline are "The View." The three words are "The View" hosts, and therefore, by definition, it's too stupid to talk about. And here's why: because no one who listens to us or watches us gives a shit about The View. The show lost its relevance when Barbara Walters died. I want to die. I can't think of anything less important than giving. Oh, wait a minute, hang on though. But you get assaulted with headlines about it, don't you? The other day, Britt, I have to tell you, it was Meghan McCain doesn't miss being on The View at all. It doesn't bother her at all. Fuck you. I never liked the fact that she was on it because I didn't care that she was on it because she has no talent. And the only reason she exists is because John McCain ejaculated one night and got a kid when he was 50 years old or whatever the fuck he was.
Right.
And she's useless. She's a piece of shit and I don't care. Okay, what's the story?
Oh, I guess they're going off of this series, this great true American crime story series. The View hosts clash over whether Monica Lewinsky was a victim of the Clinton scandal. She is part of the 1%, was a quote from somebody. I've watched a little bit of this because I was interested in seeing Clive Owen as Bill Clinton, but I think your instincts may have been right about this to avoid it like the plague. It's not all that awesome.
Oh, you mean the American? Yeah. And even though it's been on now, maybe it's just me not hearing a lot of buzz about this because probably most people listened to me and figured out that they know everything they've ever cared to know about this story. They're not interested in this story. We need to move on from this story. And I don't even want to address, which means I'm about to address the comment about Monica Lewinsky being part of the 1%, which I assume means that because she didn't become a whore living under a bridge in Los Angeles with no money and no life, and figured out how to turn what was a bad situation for her into something, and she's done well and made money. She's now the pejorative part of the 1% who we're all supposed to hate because of course, we're all supposed to hate everybody who is able to exploit a situation, except for 3 million people who call themselves influencers. What the fuck is an influencer? The answer is it's nothing. And you know who the most obnoxious example of that is right now? Monica Lewinsky is the queen of it. Monica Lewinsky should be compared to the worst bullshit who really does deserve to live under a bridge in Los Angeles with no money and no clothing. It's that goddamn little piece of shit who's the daughter of Aunt Becky, who was part of the whole get her into college scandal, and she knew it, and she had no talent before, and now she has no talent, and she's on Dancing with the fucking Stars, okay? So you know what? You know what? I'm mad at you. Got me rolling here. It usually takes me a few minutes to go.
But it is too stupid for us to discuss, and you're right.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't. Can we move on?
Well, Dancing with the Stars is a show that really should die. There's no question that show has outlived its usefulness many, many times over, and it should die. And to give some sort of life to these people. The only thing I will say about the American true crime story, whatever the thing, the woman that plays Linda Tripp, she's always, I can't remember the name of the actress, but she's always been amazing. John Goodman. That's right. He is so good.
He played the greatest Linda Tripp ever. You know, his Linda Tripp was just like John Belushi's Elizabeth Taylor. Okay, you get the same thing, right?
I will say that the woman that plays Linda Tripp, it's kind of like Heath Ledger in that Joker thing. I cannot see that actress in that role. I cannot see her when I'm looking at, because she shaved her eyebrows and they did stuff, but she's a tremendous actress. The rest of it you should avoid like the plague. Now, this is another thing that's too stupid for us to talk about. I'm going to get you fired up once again. Fuck Brian Laundrie. Would you like to know why fuck Brian Laundrie? I'm going to show this picture to you.
Well, wait, hang on.
I'm going to show you this picture.
10 reasons. You can't make it just one reason.
This is one reason right here. Apparently, Nancy Grace is back. She's back on TV. I mean, you can avoid her if you want to, but it's very hard. Fuck you to the entire Laundrie family for bringing this woman back into some sort of national discussion. I thought we had gotten rid of Nancy Grace. I was sick of Nancy Grace. I didn't need to see Nancy Grace, but now I'm seeing her in different places, and she is kind of tough to avoid. I actually skimmed by Fox News, and there she was. So fuck you to the Laundrie family. Fuck you to the Laundrie family's laundry, their house, their van down by the river, any of that shit. Fuck you to his Pinterest deal, all of that shit for bringing this woman back into all of our lives across America.
Hey, no disagreement from this box on the screen here. None whatsoever. And I think you handled the outrage very, very well. But we always have to remember why does Nancy Grace exist as we know her? The answer, of course, is OJ.
Orenthal.
Right?
Yeah.
Didn't she come to prominence?
Yeah.
She's one of the OJ babies, like Greta
That's
Van
true.
Susteren.
True.
And a few other people. All right.
As I pointed out, the reason, part of the big reason that Jay Leno ascended to have the #1 show in late night television was fucking OJ. Fucking stupid. So many bad things came out of OJ, including 2 dead people. I don't want to, try to minimize that.
Of course.
I don't want to minimize that, but Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Right. All right. I'd say, Britt, it's fair to say that one of our go-to sites that we use because they do a good job of kind of cutting into and finding some of the most annoying things, many of which are actually too stupid to talk about. And they slip up a lot by playing almost, I hate to say this, the Fox game of not only out of context headlines, but altering exactly what was said to make the headline more salacious. Here we go. And I'm going to read the headline first, and then I'm going to play the clip, which includes part of what they put into the headline and truncated and twisted and made Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who he's a pretty credible guy. He's kind of up there. He's up there.
I'll give you that.
He knows his stuff. I have some problems with conflict of interest on him because he's on the board of Pfizer, and he soft pedals the politics of why things are the way they are just a little bit too much. In other words, you will never hear the words Donald Trump ever come out of his mouth. Okay. And he kind of tempers that with the political environment is blah, blah. Okay. I don't like that. But in terms of his medical knowledge, he's probably second to almost none. He was FDA commissioner. And so you can't question that. And I guess it must be in his book. He must talk about why he couldn't take being the FDA commissioner any longer while Trump was president. So that's certainly in his favor, right? Mm-hmm, that he did walk away as so few did. So here's the headline. It says, Dr. Scott Gottlieb to Fox News. We're moving to a place, quote, where masks become optional. Wow. Dr. Gottlieb, and by the way, this is almost equivalent to the famous headline that gets used from February, where Dr. Fauci once said that we're not going to need masks or something, right? And he said he didn't need masks. He didn't.
Right.
But this one is actually worse. Remember, here it is. Dr. Scott Gottlieb to Fox News. We're moving to a place where masks become optional. I guess anytime I go somewhere, I can just decide whether I want to wear a mask or not, right? Because Dr. Gottlieb says they're going to be optional.
Well, that has the headline. That's the headline. There can't be anything more to it than just that headline.
Here we go. There we go. We got the old rerun back to the beginning. We'll get to it in a second here. But basically, and I'll set it up this way. He does not say it the way that sounds, to say the least. Okay.
Really? No.
To say the least. Yeah. All right. I got it here. Here we go. Here it comes. Ready?
Of mask matters, and a cloth mask isn't going to afford an individual nearly as much protection as a level 3 procedure mask, and you're going to get much more protection from an N95 mask or a KN95 mask. So if you're someone who wants to protect yourself because you feel you're at risk of COVID or you're worried about getting an asymptomatic infection, maybe bringing it into the home to a young child, you should be looking at the quality of the mask you're wearing as well. I think we're going to move to a paradigm where masks become optional, encouraged in certain settings, and it's going to be based on what the overall prevalence of infection is and what the vaccination rate is and whether or not you're in an environment where there are vulnerable people.
Right. Now how do you turn that?
That's very different. Yeah, that's extremely different. Right. That's what was it? Read the headline again so we can remember how very different than what he just said. Right. We're getting
Dr.
to a place.
Right. To Fox News. We're moving to a place where, quote, masks become optional.
No.
Oh, this isn't the all-time definition of the devil is in every word he said around that particular 4-word phrase, which he didn't even say it that way. No, he never said we're going to be in a place where masks become. No, he didn't say that at all. That is malpractice. That is journalistic malpractice.
What was the website again? What site is that?
This is media. This is Dan
Media.
fucking Abrams. Dan Abrams, who puts himself above everybody, right?
Yeah.
He is the most credible. He is the most ethical guy in all of legal reporting, right? His father was the great Floyd Abrams, the First Amendment superstar. He's Dan Abrams, legal analyst for ABC News. Media. How dare you do that? That is pathetic. You know what? That is Facebook style mis and disinformation. It's exactly what it is. It gives aid and comfort to people when you go to a store and you see some asshole not wearing a mask. Well, I just heard that Dr. Gottlieb said they're already optional.
It's going to be less important. No, he was.
What he was saying. Listen to, right? The guy passing out candy at Costco at the front door, or Dr. I'm not going to wear a mask. I don't have to wear a mask.
Gottlieb said so.
Yep.
So Mediaite does have a feature where they have media losers and winners of the day. They should be the losers of the day for doing that, for having that particular. They should name themselves as the losers.
Right, and we look for that very soon.
Oh, it'll happen. I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah, because the ability to self-examine and self-criticize, that's one thing that we all look forward to every day.
They reflect on themselves quite a bit. This story out of Florida now, Florida, the place that we can kind of point to as being, hey, worse than where we are, unless you're Mississippi or someplace like that. Florida Governor DeSantis taps a new Surgeon General. Surprisingly, Brad, this Surgeon General does not support vaccine mandates.
Wait a minute.
Who knew?
Since when do states have a position called Surgeon General?
It must be a new thing. Well, it's helped Florida out immensely, as you can tell. Having that position has been a real boon and helped save a lot of people.
By the way, just the fact that Florida has something, no other state has that.
No, yeah, we usually have
you've never heard that. You have never heard that phrase outside of the United States Surgeon General. You just never have.
Nope. It's that, but he's picked his guy, as DeSantis shows that he's going to be the next Donald Trump, or he already is the next Donald Trump. He's got a guy that's out there who apparently supposedly likes medicine and likes science, but doesn't think that vaccine mandates are a good idea for some reason or other. And that is a position that is kind of a minority position as time goes on. Vaccine mandates are beginning to become more and more of the thing. We do have a loyal opposition that continues to bitch about them, but those people are losing arguments left and right, not only in the public sphere, but also in court, right?
Well, I don't even think that's a question anymore.
Yeah.
Because if you want the country to be divided 50-50, you're not going to have it over vaccine mandates, because that train already left the station, and we're in the the 60 to 70% area of people who are vaccinated and are fed up. Now, what's interesting to me is that I think we're up to like 75% or so of people over 18 have had at least one shot. And so close to that many are now vaccinated over 18. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, as you just said, and as we've been saying here, the number of people who support vaccine mandates is at least, and I'm interpolating here, 10 to 15% below the actual number of adults who are vaccinated. So you have that gap of people who are vaccinated, but they don't want mandates. They don't want to go that far.
Mm-hmm.
They're not interested. They're for freedom. But so to me, that's an important kind of gap that needs to be closed. You need to have everybody on board who's been vaccinated say, yeah, I'm vaccinated. I had the brains to do it, and everybody else should do it, and there shouldn't be any question about it. This is no time for dormitory, late at night, philosophical conversations about mythical freedom to spread a communicable disease. It just doesn't look. There's an argument over whether the Constitution has a specific right of privacy in there. The words do not exist. But in some very, very important cases, the most important one being Griswold versus Connecticut, the famous birth control decision of many, many years ago, combined with Roe versus Wade.
Correct.
It sets up an implicit right of privacy that Americans have. And some of these anti-vaxxers go, well, it's my body. I get to choose It's my right of private. And of course, that completely falls away. I'm tired of saying the same thing every day on the same subjects, but it just has to be said. And people need the ammunition for the argument when they run into idiots who think that they have some kind of personal right, as DeSantis stupidly said. He said it last week. Was it last week or the week before, where he said, my not getting a vaccine has nothing to do with you.
I think that was last week. Yeah, that was last week, I think.
Yeah, that's what you got out of Harvard? Is that what you learned up there?
As you continue on your rant against Harvard, guess where this dickhead comes from and went to medical school? This guy who is now Ron DeSantis' new Surgeon General.
Well, it's either Harvard or the Jerry Falwell School of Medicine. I don't know.
Well, you were right with the former. He was planning on going to the latter. That was his safety school, but he did go to the Harvard School of Medicine. That is correct.
It doesn't. But see, obviously that means nothing. It doesn't mean anything.
But you continue on your rant about how Harvard is fucking up the world with various, and they are. There's another prime example of this dickhead going in there and pretending to know something about medicine, or being some sort of advocate for science and medicine, which is what you're supposed to do under the Hippocratic Oath. And here he is like, I don't know about mandates. I don't know if that's a good idea.
Hang on. We're early in finding out about who this guy is. Okay. I can guarantee you that there's going to be a deep dive on what he's all about. I mean, he may have been some kind of freakazoid medical. We don't know. So the fact that he went to medical school at Harvard, it means absolutely nothing. This, DeSantis could have been smoking dope with this guy in the dorms and was buddies with him, 25 years ago. We don't know.
That is so accurate. I can't believe that you would say such a thing. Apparently this guy was teaching at UCLA. They must be very happy about that. The David Geffen School of Medicine, Brad, at the University of California, Los Angeles.
Hey, you know what, Britt? You give a couple $100 million, they'll name it after you.
That's exactly
They'll
right.
name it after you.
Well, it was originally going to be the Asylum Records School of Medicine, but they decided to go. No, don't do that. That's a little too on the nose. We'll go with David Geffen. Right. Don't you think the answer to this, like when you point out, for example, that Mississippi has vaccine mandates to go to public school, and there's no religious opposition. I don't care how much you supposedly love Jesus, read your King James Bible, you can't get out of taking a pertussis vaccine before your kid goes into kindergarten. Don't you think the proper response from the University of Mississippi is we got to repeal those vaccine mandates for kids going to school? Don't you think that is the obvious logical step for a place like Mississippi? It's like we have to get rid of all of it. We can't have like a diphtheria or a whooping cough or any kind of vaccines. You just walk into school and you start infecting somebody, and that's going to make the 5-year-old's immune system that much stronger. Isn't that the logical response?
Well, obviously it's the backwards slippery slope, which so far no one is advocating. And the only slight bit, and this is not relevant, it's not equivalent, it doesn't count, it means nothing. Much of the vaccine resistance pre-COVID in the country in recent years came from liberal areas. It just did. California was notorious for that. And remember, they had that big measles outbreak, I think, that started at Disney World a few years ago. Right. And if they want to use that as some kind of a excuse here right now with COVID, go ahead, have at it. You're just barking up the wrong tree. This is an extraordinary situation. I mean, I don't know if you just drop the number 660,000 and go from there. If that wasn't enough to convince anybody or isn't enough going forward, there's not much more to say. I'm looking. Do states have surgeon generals? A small number of states have surgeon generals. A small number of them. Oh, God Almighty. Let's try to guess which states have surgeon generals. Jesus Christ. This is so stupid.
Most of them have like a director of health and human services, like we do in North Carolina. That's the one.
Right, because remember, Surgeon General, it's a ceremonial post. It's not a real thing. Right?
Exactly.
Right. Here we go. We're gonna find it. And the answer is 5 states.
Jeez.
Ready? Arkansas,
Florida.
California, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan. You know what? It's still stupid. It's still dumb. Okay. Because you know what? The Surgeon General position of the United States, where they walk around in a military uniform, is stupid also.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be in a military. You shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but okay. All right. There it is. Fact checking it, making sure we're on target here. So 45 states realize the folly of this. 5 are dopey enough to go for it. Have fun. Have fun. All right.
That's the way it is right now.
Yeah. Pick among these.
All right.
I forgot. Tom Brady really is an idiot. Biden approval ratings are growing. I'm sorry, his disapproval ratings are growing by the day. And Steve Bannon revels in his own filth.
Let's do those ever popular Biden unapproval ratings.
Okay. Gallup poll, which I guess you would take as the gold standard of the overall broad approval rating, because they've been doing it, for 100 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
He had a bad week. 49 down to 43% approval and 53% disapproval. So he's 10 points underwater. We're gonna have to, that says it all, and that's right down there with some of the bottom numbers of some recent presidents who've hit rock bottom. But this is a perfect example. We know why. We know why they're down, because president gets credit when things are going well, and president gets all the blame when things are going bad. And the list of things that right now are not going well it's long. And you don't get to say, well, that's not his fault, he inherited that. It doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work. When you lose a football game because you had three turnovers, 2 passes run back for touchdowns, and a fumble on your own 10-yard line, and they scored each time, you don't get to say, if it wasn't for that, well, I would have won the game. You don't get to do that. You don't get to blame external forces over which you had no real control. So the opposite of that, I'll just say this, because we're fans of Joe Biden. We voted for Joe Biden. We want him to do well. Mm-hmm. When Joe Biden does well and the Democrats get their shit together, the country will do well, and they have a chance to hang on in 2022. If they split apart here and can't get any legislation passed on infrastructure and on all the major league social programs that are part of the several $1 trillion package, if they all want to piss on each other and accomplish nothing, then Democrats will pay the price, because there are enough idiots in this country, as you know. That's why Joe Biden's approval, a lot of those are Democrats who they used to like Joe Biden. They don't like him now because they hear that things are going bad.
Right. And the reason they're not able to do anything and pass legislative agendas is just because they're incompetent. It's not because Republicans are fucking with the filibuster and putting their legs in concrete and stopping everything and cock blocking everything. But that doesn't matter. That's not important.
That is an important part of it. That's not the only part of it, because the scorecard has the Democrats holding the presidency, the House of Representatives, albeit by a small margin, and the Senate by the smallest of margins,
but not a filibuster-proof majority. But not a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate.
But they can,
which is running the train.
I know, but they can overcome that if they decide to. But they might not, because they have a couple people from idiot states like West Virginia and Arizona,
right,
and probably some who aren't talking publicly, who are. I don't know. So we will sit back and see if all this is just noise, and they get it together here in the next few weeks, and things would turn around very, very quickly. Joe Biden's approval ratings would go right back up if they did that, and if they can corral the problem down on the border. I mean, there are a lot of we all know why his approval ratings have gone down, and yes, there is a nihilistic party that used to be called the Republicans, who really don't care what is done on behalf of the citizens of this country. They truly, truly do not care. The cruelty is the point. They stay in enthrallment to Donald Trump, in fear of him.
Owning the libs. They're owning the libs, Brad.
Owning the libs. We all get that. We all get that. We're going to play chicken to the 11th hour, 59th minute to see whether they shut down the government again, which, by the way, I don't know how many times you have to do the same stupid thing and have it blow up in your face. Republicans have done this, about 3 or 4 times in recent years, maybe more than that.
Yep.
Starting with Newt Gingrich and they think that this is the greatest thing ever. And, I don't think it's a very good idea, because if the United States starts defaulting on its debt,
it's a worldwide economic crisis. That's a worldwide economic crisis.
You will cause a problem. You will cause a real problem. The markets will crash, and Social Security checks won't go out, and federal employees won't get paid, and it's the same routine over again. And how you would have a party that calls itself the Republican Party that thinks this is what's best for the country, I don't know. Because the answer is they don't think it's what's best for the country. All they care about is that plaque on the door in that building on Capitol Hill. That's all they care about. And they somehow think that there are enough voters out there who will reward them for doing this. And I hope they don't, but we don't know. Because this is a country that elected Donald Trump. This is a country that Donald Trump still has, I guess, 30 to 40% hardcore people who are ready to vote for him tomorrow. And, we got a lot of people doing his bidding for him. And could he lie his way back into office? You want to say 100% no way, no how? I can't say it. I mean, if the country was dumb enough to do it once, are we dumb enough to do it again? Yes, this country is dumb enough to do it again. So you get a Joe Biden approval rating way down there. You know what I think, though? When I think that this bothers Joe Biden less than any recent president I can think of. I think that one advantage, and we don't talk about that all this much because they use it as a battering ram against him over there on you know what. That Joe Biden is 78 years old. He has nothing to prove to anybody. He can act on his own instincts, and they may be wrong. He may not get it right every time. He doesn't get it right a lot of times. But I think he's secure in his place and in his own skin, as they like to say. And I think that he is capable, if anyone is, even as a 78-year-old Joe Biden instead of a 58 or a 48-year-old Joe Biden with more energy and a little bit more articulateness to get people in a room and get them to agree on things they didn't think they were going to agree on. And if he can't get the far lefties in the House of Representatives to go along to help not just Joe Biden get reelected, but to help keep control of the House in 2020. And they want to be, the far left of the minority party, which is a shitty place to be. It's a really, really shitty place to be. Okay. If they think it's tough right now that they don't get everything that they want with Joe Biden as president, wait until House Speaker, possibly Kevin McCarthy, sends them on a permanent trip to Siberia for the next 2 years leading up to 2024, when they get reelected in their heavily Democratic gerrymandered districts around major cities in the country whom they represent. I would think that they, in the end, will be smart enough to compromise. And if I hear one more person already bring up the most hackneyed, repeated, tiresome quote when it comes to these big spending bills, Senator Edward Dirksen of Illinois once said, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and you're starting to talk about real money. Stop saying it. Stop saying it. We know it. We've heard it. Move on. Come up with a clever new quote. Stop saying these things. And so that's.
But I also object to
yeah.
there's also kind of a smart ass media narrative. It's like, boy, that Nancy Pelosi, she's having a hard time corralling the AOC and the squad and that liberal wing of the Democratic Party. When the real problem is Kevin McCarthy can't keep a leash on the Lauren Boeberts and the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Jim Jordans, and all those freakazoids who are excusing insurrection. That's the real story.
Of course it is. But guess what, Britt? That doesn't matter, does it?
No,
it does not matter until they pay the direct political price for what they have been planning, what they did, and what they are doing to the United States of America. Which brings us to Steve Bannon, who is reveling. He is thrilled that in the Bob Woodward, Robert Costa book, they say that Steve Bannon was right there with Giuliani right before January 6th and helped plan out what was happening on January 6th. And the quote, "It's time to kill the Biden presidency in its crib," in the crib. And Bannon said, "Yep, I said it. I was there. I did it." He is proud of that. And let's just take aside for a second the phrase "kill it in his crib." Okay, let's take that aside. Pro-lifers, Republicans, Texas Republican fuckfaces who voted for that bullshit law, your asshole governor who signed it. What, really? Kill it in its crib. Really? Who kills babies in their crib? Apparently, Republicans, conservatives, Steve Bannon.
That's what they wanted.
Right. But I guess it's okay to kill it in its crib as opposed to having an abortion when the thing is the size of a piece of gum. That's
always been the thing. That pro-lifers believe in the right of life until the baby is born. At this point, when it's in the crib, it's already been born. They don't give a fuck about it. So killing it in the crib still makes them very pro-life. You have to understand that.
I understand that.
Once it gets beyond the vagina, they're like, I don't give a shit about it. I don't give a shit about any of that.
Right.
That's always been the way they go.
So Bannon confirms the conversation, and Bannon says about Biden, 42% of the American people think that Biden didn't win the presidency legitimately. So rock on. That's that famous 42%. You notice how that number seems to always be there. It never wavers.
I know.
Trump's approval ratings barely got above that. It didn't matter. It did not matter.
Nope.
So
this was something we haven't talked about much, but they've unearthed this memo from some of the Trump lawyers who were pissed off that this was actually able to be unearthed. I think the New York Times got a hold of this. There's a 6-page memo about how Mike Pence was just supposed to go in there, challenge the Arizona stuff, and eventually just claim victory and go home. And even Mike Pence was not able to do that, but there was a complete plan to undermine democracy and undermine the United States.
Which connects right back to what Bannon is saying.
Yeah,
but the most important part of those, if you want to call them revelations, because we long ago passed the point where I'm shocked. I can't believe that happened. Everything that you thought happened wasn't half as bad as what actually happened. We just keep finding that out over and over again. But I recall you and I saying, and I'm sure you that for years you always knew that Trump could never hire decent lawyers because no decent lawyer would want to work for Trump, right? Well, they just wouldn't want to work for him.
Well, they like to get paid, and he's got a way of not.
They like to get
people.
paid. You shouldn't lie to your lawyer.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have them standing out on a ledge all the time, risking their own careers, risking their own credentials to defend you, even if they were conservatives or maybe they voted for you. So as you saw over the years, the pool of people willing to do legal work for Trump would shrink. It kept shrinking. And by the time the election was over, Well, I got to tell you, what a murderer's row you got here. You still got Giuliani, who has been drunk since 2004. Nobody told him. Okay, right? Just and by the way, has not appeared. I think it's like been 35 years since he ever even appeared in a courtroom. Right? There's Rudy Giuliani. It's just pointless. Just useless. Okay.
Sydney, you had the lovely Sidney Powell from Durham,
Powell.
North Carolina.
Right. Lynn Wood. All these people. That crank John Eastman, who was a law professor, I think, out at Chapman University in
he's
in
the
LA.
real father of that stupid memo, that awful memo. He's the father of that.
He's that guy. He's that guy. When you see the clips of January 6th, and sometimes they'll show Trump speaking, and then they'll show this other guy right before that with gray hair in a hat in a long overcoat. That was Eastman. Eastman, and he was out there just talking trash. So anyway, so that's who you're left with, the worst of the worst. And now, because of these revelations in the Times and this reporting, and we put it all together, we knew that they knew, but now we're sure that they knew that they were lying. They knew that there was no evidence of fraud. Okay. And my bone to pick on what I just said is I said it that way on purpose. I said there was no evidence of fraud because the way you hear it spoken on every network, there was no evidence of widespread fraud in Pennsylvania. Don't use the word widespread, because if you use the word widespread, then they go, well, yeah, no widespread fraud, but there was some fraud. And if there was some fraud, how much do we know? It wasn't. Do not use qualifiers. There was no fraud. There was no cheating. If you have 1 million votes, if 3 of them are quote unquote dead people voting, that's not no evidence of widespread fraud. That's no fraud. Okay. That's margin of error, nothingness. So I do resent them using the qualifier, no evidence of fraud or no widespread fraud, because that keeps the door open. And this is oxygen for them. And when you combine that with these bad faith, third rate, pathetic lawyers willing to do anything, let's go back one more time to one of our truly original building blocks of Trumpism, bashing Trump. And it is, if you do business with Donald Trump, somehow, some way, it will end in tears for you. We can't tell you how, we can't tell you when, but it will happen. So now here are 4 more people, at least, probably more, who have ruined themselves by associating with Donald Trump. Every one of them is going to be disbarred if they don't go to jail, because they broke one of the most important rules. And I know it's hard to believe that there are ethical rules for lawyers. That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
That's funny. That's cute.
But you truly are not allowed to knowingly lie in court.
Right.
And during a couple of the cases that got tossed out, what was it, 60 or 70 cases? Mm-hmm. And some of the judges, they were just eloquently brilliant in bashing the shit out of these lawyers who were accused right there on the spot of coming in here with nothing. What are you doing? You're wasting my time. Get out of here. Good day, sir. Good day, sir.
You're being a bad officer of the court. You were sworn to be a good officer and a faithful officer of this court, and you failed miserably. As much as you can.
To say the least.
Give us the Tom Brady thing on the way out, because we love TB12. He's our favorite quarterback of all time.
All right, here it is. Tom Brady went on the Sirius XM podcast called Let's Go with Jim Gray. You know, I hate the Jim Gray that his career got squashed. He was damn good. I thought he was damn good. What the? Didn't he get nailed for saying like one thing at one time about Pete Rose or something?
He interviewed like Pete Rose one time. I think maybe it was even at the All-Star game, and he brought up, of course, the gambling, and people shit on him because that's like totally unfair or whatever. I thought it was ridiculous.
Okay, my point times 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So he's on there with Jim Gray and Larry Fitzgerald, who I'm thinking he's going to make the Hall of Fame.
Maybe, yeah. There's a shot.
So Brady says, I'd love to get part of my salary in crypto.
Yeah.
I'd love to request to get paid in some crypto and, get paid in some Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana tokens. I don't even know what those are.
Right.
I think it's amazing that that's what's happening in the world, that the world's becoming more digital. And these digital currencies, along with a lot of, if you look how the way the world is going with all these digital platforms and digital mediums, different ones, how they're impacting currencies, Brady explained. Tom Brady knows as much about that as I do about playing the cello, okay? And I know nothing about playing the cello. Only an idiot who makes millions and millions and millions of dollars would be dumb enough to say, I wish I wasn't making millions and millions of dollars. I wish I was making dozens and dozens of Bitcoins all the time. I think a Bitcoin right now is in the up like $45,000 is one, whatever it is. It's just ignorant. It's insulting. I mean, it's really, really insultingly stupid. Okay.
Well, he's also getting called out a lot by, I got to get this story up from Carly Lloyd from the United States women's national team. So, yeah, it's great for him to say, I'm never going to retire. He doesn't have to have kids. He doesn't have children. So he's kind of getting called out on that as well. It's easy to say out there when you're pumping Giselle full of sperm and she's doing all the work there. You can say, I'm not going to have to, I'm not going to do that.
I'm going to call bullshit on that whine.
Really?
That's a whine.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you start hating women? When did you start hating?
It's not about hating women, Britt. It's about and Tom Brady's an idiot for saying what he did.
There's your headline if you'd like to read it. Tom Brady doesn't have to have kids. U.S. women's national team star Carly Lloyd opens up on retirement decision.
All right. But here's the problem. The problem here is you have to measure Tom Brady against every other person of his type. In other words, every other man who's played NFL football. And there is no one who has ever played NFL football at quarterback at the level that Tom Brady is playing at his age. To bring in the fact that since he's not having children, that it doesn't count is just pathetic. I think it's pathetic.
Wow, you're dissing Carly Lloyd. That's amazing.
And by the way, hang on a second here. Yeah. So if by the way, in a lot of professions, women hold off having children until their late 30s. They do it a lot.
When asked why she doesn't keep going and replicate the likes of 43-year-old NFL star Tom Brady, this woman, Carly Lloyd, told Gold, well, Tom Brady doesn't have to have kids. That's one thing for starters. My husband, Brian, and I are eventually going to start a family, so the clock's kind of ticking on that. I don't think every athlete gets the opportunity to dictate when they go out, to dictate if they're happy or not, to dictate if they're on top or not. That is the quote from Carly Lloyd, which you find fault
You know what?
with.
But it's not a fight fault. There's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything there.
Mm-hmm.
She's just not making a point.
She's making a great point.
I don't think there's a point there.
She's making a great point.
You don't really believe that, do you? You are faking this. I know you don't believe that.
I'm just tired of everybody kissing Tom Brady's ass. I admit he's he redeemed himself with that appearance of the White House. I'll give him that. He kind of dissed Trump on that whole situation. But he's shown some failures in judgment before. This guy has. But yeah, I mean, I agree. He's the greatest quarterback that ever did, and all this other horse shit. I agree with all that.
Yeah, and by the way, how do we know men can't have babies?
Are
you sure of that?
That's starting to happen.
Yeah. All right. By the way, one of the fantasy scenes on the show 9 Perfect Strangers, winding up, I believe today. This is Wednesday, and it's on Hulu, right?
Hulu, yeah.
One of the fantasy scenes is a man having a baby. Okay, so. And maybe it's not a fantasy after all. It might be real.
Whose fantasy is it? It ain't mine. I'll tell you that.